And now let's export this to BIM file formats. So first of all, let's check the BIM panel. So this is the BIM panel where we have our functions for importing and exporting to standard BIM file formats. So IFC export, Navisworks NWC export, and also you can use import and export to land XML, with which you can communicate, for example, with Autodesk InfraWorks. So when we talk about BIM, which is building information modeling, informations are really important. So we don't want to export just the 3D model. We also like to export the data as well. So if we go here to data configurations, you will see that you can create different configurations of the data that you can export with the model. So let's create those configurations. And it is important to say that when you create those configurations, that they will be saved in the application. So not in the drawing, but in the application, in the software itself. So you will have those configurations ready for all of your other new projects. So let's rename this, and I will call it geometry data. So geometry data. Let's now add the data that we would like to export. So you see name, for example, we would like to have name, of course. This is basically just like creating the standard data table. So just check the data that you would like to have here. So let's export name, system name, starting node name, and ending node name, array name. Okay, let's go on. Let's check maybe invert data. Okay, I would like to have starting invert elevation, ending invert elevation, and also I would like to have slope, but this calculated slope. So I already told you about this. This is the real slope from that you see in the profile. Don't use slope. This slope is the data that you can, for example, import from some external source, or that you can maybe calculate in some different ways, but it's just enough to know that calculated slope is the real slope from the profile. So use that. Then maybe we can also use some lengths. Okay, let's use section length and also section length in 3D. So 2D length, 3D length. Let's add some data about the nodes as well, because this is the configuration of the data for export. So it doesn't matter if a data is for node or for sections. So for example, we can add let's add coordinates. So let's go to position, x coordinate, y coordinate, terrain height. Okay, let's now add the data about the pipes themselves. So let's go to pipe group, or of course you can search. You can type in something and it will appear. For the pipe, let's use maybe pipe material, pipe nominal diameter, pipe outer diameter, pipe inner diameter, and maybe wall thickness as well. And then what else can we use? Maybe this is enough data for the pipes. Let's go to manholes group. And for the manholes, I would like to use, let's say, manhole cover elevation, manhole bottom elevation, manhole depth, and maybe as well, we can also use the manhole width. Okay, maybe that's enough data for the manhole, but basically let's put manhole material as well. So you can choose any data that you would like to export. Let's click OK. And like I said, this is like any other data preview. So I showed you that you can give it some custom name as well. You can modify it by multiply it with some multiplier. You can edit prefix or suffix. You can define the precision. So for example, for the array, let's type just array. So we can give it shorter names. For example, for the slope, I'll type slope, but let's change the unit. So I'll not have it in the per miles, which is default. Let's use it in %, which requires that I multiply it with 0.1. Okay, and I think that the precision for the slope is 1 decimal place is enough. Okay, for the terrain height, I don't need that this is terrain height 1. Let's call it terrain elevation, because we only have one terrain. Because in Urbano, you can have up to 10 different terrains. So that's why this is terrain number 1. But for the export of the data, this is enough. Okay, the same is for the manhole depth. Let's type here manhole depth. We know that it's related to terrain 1. So we don't need the data as well. Okay, so I like this. So one configuration group is created. Let's add another group and let's call this maybe excavation data. Because if you remember, we also calculated those excavation data for volumes of trench excavation and trench backfill layers. So let's add those data as well. So we will have the name, and also let's go to excavation data, and let's have excavation volume. Let's have sand bedding volume. Let's have pipe volume. Let's have sand backfill and ground backfill. I think this is enough data for that. Let's click OK. Let's add another group, and let's call this water hydraulic data. Okay, let's go to adding the data, and let's go to water, and let's go to hydraulic calculation results. So let's say for the sections, I would like to have calculated total flow, but absolute value. Okay, let's use velocity and head losses. Okay, and for the nodes, let's use calculated total demand. Let's use head elevation and pressure. Okay, let's now edit this custom names. So for the calculated, what's absolute? Absolute means because if I draw in water system the section to go one way, but the software calculated that the flow goes the other way of the drawing direction, the flow will be negative. So I always use the absolute flow because the flow cannot basically be negative. It's just a mathematical solution from EPANET. So I will use the custom name of total flow. Okay, and here a head elevation. Why is this descriptive? Because it means that you can have two values in the same node. Because where you have pump or when you have a valve, then inside the same node, as we learned yesterday, you can have pressure drop or pressure increase. So that's why it's descriptive, okay? So head elevation and pressure. Okay, so this will be our groups of data to export. So let's now export. And here, maybe we can say total demand. Okay, let's click OK. Let's first export to IFC. So IFC is Industry Foundation Classes, which is basically the standard file format for data export in BIM workflows. So now the software is asking, okay, what do you want to export? I will export everything. So both systems and also the DTM. And now this is important where we are. So if we are on the top systems in these branches, in this hierarchy, here are the data groups to add. So now we are adding the groups to everything because we are to basically both to water and the sewage system. So I will add geometry data. Okay. But additionally, just for water system, so if I'm now here, just for water system, I will add also excavation and water hydraulic data. So let's click OK. So now you see for water system, we have geometry data, excavation data, and water hydraulic data. And for sewage system, we have just geometry data. If you need some additional data that are not related to nodes and sections, you can go to project data and define some project data. For example, project name will be Novi Vinodolski. which is basically this area where we are designing this network. You can give a name of a designer. For example, name, I will put my name. And for example, organization, company data. So I will put the Studio Ars name here. Okay. Then you can also create some custom data about the project. For example, let's say, I don't know, designer or investor. I will say, I don't know, Studio Ars. I don't know, address. So company address. So let's say, or let's say telephone. So this is how you can basically add some additional custom data, and they will be written to the project. So to the top of the IFC file, not to the elements, which is really a great option. And now you can export each system to its own IFC file, or you can export everything to one IFC file. You can also define the file path and the file name. I will export it. And let's now check this IFC file. So let's close. Of course, I can open the IFC file with Navisworks, or I can open it with some other BIM viewer. I have this free software, which is called BIM Vision. So I will open it in that. So just double click. And this is the Urbano BIM model in BIM Vision. So this is the DTM. So the Civil 3D DTM. I will hide it so we can focus just on our network. So in the red, you can see the sewage network that today we imported from some external drawing. And here you can see our water system. You can even see the connections with the house connections. We connected center of the pipe to center of the pipe. And basically, that's how it looked like. So really, really nice. And what I was telling you before, the data is really important. So if I pick on this pipe, you can see these data groups that we created in Urbano. So excavation data, geometry data, water hydraulic data. So even we can see this hydraulic modeling data in our BIM model, which is really, really impressive. Or if we pick on a manhole, here you can see head elevation, pressure, or standard geometry data as well. And for the sewage system, we can check the data for the sewage system. Here is the just geometry data because we didn't export anything else. And if we check the entire project, here you can see, if we go to the top of the hierarchy, for the entire project, we have arbitrary data about the designer, about the company, and about the application and other stuff that we defined to be exported with the model as well. So the name of the system and so on. Okay, so this is the IFC. Let's now also export directly to Navisworks NWC file format. So basically, when you open the dialog, it's almost the same as the dialog for the IFC export. So you can define what you want to export. So we will select the systems and Civil 3D DTM. Additionally, to Navisworks NWC files, you can also export the trenches as 3D solid elements. So, but this is, I will say, really high level of development. If you really need this actual solids, because now to IFC, we just exported the data about the quantities. So total excavation volume, total backfill volume, and so on. But if you also want to have the 3D solid elements of the excavated ground and backfill layers, you can also export the 3D solids of those. But I don't need those. And this part functions the same as for IFC. So for all systems, let's define geometry data group. And additionally, just for water system, let's add excavation data and water hydraulic data. So water system, we have geometry, excavation, water hydraulic. And for sewage, we have just geometry data. Additionally, the ones of you that use Navisworks will know what this is. This is automatic creation of Navisworks selection sets based on any data. So you can create, I don't know, selection sets automatically based on diameter or, let's say, pipe material or any other data, but we will not use it now. So let's just click on write, and Navisworks NWC file will be created, and we will open it in Autodesk Navisworks. So let's go to Autodesk Navisworks, and we will show this file here. Of course, Navisworks is great for this visualizations and checking the BIM model in 3D. So, of course, Urbano supports the direct communication through the native NWC file. But like I said, you can also open the IFC file in Navisworks as well. So let's open the NWC file. Open. Here it is. First of all, let's change the background to some nicer color so we can see this. And let's now use Orbit. Navisworks is really great for this navigation in the network. And here it is. So we see the model, we see the Civil 3D DTM. So let's hide it and let's focus on our network. So here it is. This is the manholes from the sewage systems. This is the water system. And here we can see all of these network elements, these house connections, and everything that we created and exported with Urbano. And also, like I said, the data and all those data groups that we created, everything is exported. So let's open the properties dialog. Let's select maybe this pipe here, and we see the groups. So geometry data group, excavation data group, water hydraulic data group. Let's pick on a manhole, and you see again water hydraulic data, excavation data, which is we don't have because we didn't export the data. We can also, so excavation volume for the manhole, and geometry data. Here it is, all the data about that manhole.